standing. We have a moment of silence for Mary Alice Helston, who passed away this weekend. Thank you. She was a wonderful person and a true asset to our community. Okay. Welcome to the Village Board meeting of July 11th, 2011. Pretty light agenda tonight.
Kyle, if I might, I have to leave, said earlier, in about 10 to 15 minutes. So
Okay.
just let you know.
No problem. What I'm going to do is have you and David just comment briefly on Epsilon, just what the village is doing
Okay.
there, just so before you duck out, I'll make sure we get that in. All right. First, we need to approve the minutes from the village board work session from June 20th. Oh, I'm sorry. Need to, one little thing throws me off.
Yeah.
Need to,
Or it's screw jobs. Oh,
All right.
need to accept the agenda as presented. Any changes to it? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion.
So,
Second?
second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Now, the minutes of the village board work session, June 20th, 2011. Has everyone had an opportunity to look through the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Any changes or omissions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Village board meeting from June 27th, 2011. Any errors or omissions? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve.
So moved. Okay.
Seconded.
Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. The abstract of vouchers here. I'm going to ask for a motion to accept.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Just, I always like to remind people, because it's such a big number when you read it,
Right.
that these are already approved bills.
Right. They've been approved and signed off by the trustees. So bills as examined by members of the board were approved in accordance with abstract 2011-2012 number 1, check numbers 1782 through 1871 in the amount of $257,335.07. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have a resolution for the Justice Court Assistance Program grant. Lita is always doing a great job tracking down grants for our Justice Department. She, most of the time, is successful in getting those for us and does an excellent job. And this is another example of that grant that she found. And I'll just read the memo briefly. The state is offering Justice Court Assistance Program grant once again. The amount is the same last year, $30,000. Please put this on the agenda for a board resolution. So $30,000 grant. And these tough fiscal times, it's nice that there are still some grants available, and we have staff that are aggressively pursuing those. So kudos to Lita. I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to say that since this is used as the courtroom, we've been able to get some really good stuff from that, we're going to be able to have the top peer review done, we're going to get some systems that will make people easier to be heard. I mean, all of that came, and it seems to be the only place these days that you can still get grants
Right.
through the Justice Department.
Was the
So
carpet from this grant?
originally, yes. Yes.
So it's something that's very valuable,
Yeah.
and in these tough times,
Wish her luck.
all free money is good money. So, all right. No further discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm going to go to Mayor Trustees' comments, but before I turn over to the trustees, I want to speak briefly about Epsilon. Many of our business owners and residents are aware that there's been a foul odor protruding from the Epsilon cheese factory at the old Sorrento site. It's been very detrimental to the business of nearby businesses. We've been getting a lot of complaints here, and very well-founded complaints, because if you were unfortunate enough to be around that vicinity at times the odor's been bad, you know it's very significant, and those businesses surrounding need some relief. At the same time, we're happy to have a new taxpayer in the city waters, or in the village water sewer user. It's very good, but we're not going to allow a new user to be to the detriment of our existing taxpayers. So we're aggressively pursuing that situation, and I'm just gonna have Art and David just speak to it briefly. Art, if you want to just talk about.
Yeah, it appears that Epsilon is in the process of doing test runs on its equipment to make cheese, and that as part of this process, they're gearing up their pre-treatment plant. And the pre-treatment plant has been having some problems treating the effluent from the cheese. As a result, these odors are being created and emanating from the site. What they've done is retain the services of JCO, who are sewage treatment plant operators, and JCO has been working on the site for the last week to 10 days. They also retained consulting engineer, Louis Hauser-Netzel, who's been working with JCO. I'm in contact with Magui probably 4 or 5 times a week. I'll be meeting with him on Wednesday. What they've done is they've got basically 2 tanks that the sewage goes into, the effluent goes into, and they got 1 tank under control, and they're working on the 2nd tank. And it's going to take them a little bit of time to stabilize the process, and he says that hopefully that's going to happen in the next few days. They've been working on it for the last week or so to try to stabilize that process. I think in the meantime, the building inspector has issued a notice of violation, and I think they're working on the remedy. So, as I said, I'll be meeting with him on Wednesday, him and JCO, myself, and Bipin Gandhi, to go through the process of what they're doing to eliminate the odors.
That sums up pretty well. Is there anything?
Yeah, I would just say that our code does provide, obviously, legal remedies. If there are improper discharges or anything that's going to cause the potential for damage to our plant. Based upon the results of Wednesday's meeting, I'll be in a position to recommend to the board whether or not we need to proceed further legally. The first step in that process is the building inspector to issue a order of the remedy, which he has done, so that process is commenced. And if we need to do something, we will. Hopefully, technically, from an engineering point of view, they work it out, because that's in everyone's best interest. But if that doesn't happen, obviously, we're not going to sit idly by and allow this to continue to occur. We'll do what we need to do.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
Does that mean that Magui is going to be running it for them, or someone, who's going to be running it?
JCO.
JCO is going to be running it for them.
Right.
All right, my concern is, and I'm not saying that Epsilon is doing this, but I know that we ran it years ago. We ran into significant difficulties with Sorrento because they would dump on the weekends. And it, needless to say, would mess up our sewage going into our plant, which
Right.
makes us liable. I just want there, however, I know you're fully aware of this, but you know, it's what got us in trouble years ago, and I want to make sure that weekend dumping does not occur.
Well, as part of this process, they're being required to basically monitor their effluent on a permanent basis. They're going to monitor flow, volume of flow, type of flow,
Okay.
when it's flowing, so that's all part of the process
Right.
as well.
Okay,
So as with Sorrento was required to do that also. The equipment that Sorrento had in there has deteriorated to the point where it can't be used anymore, so Epsilon is replacing that with all new equipment for monitoring.
so we should be safe.
Yes.
And just so everyone's aware, between the mayor, Mike, Art, myself, Bipin Gandhi, obviously this has been a priority. I have been away, but it was a priority before I left and while I was away. So there's a lot of work going on to correct the problem.
Oh, additionally, thanks to the reminder, we are drafting a permit that Dave's going to be looking at, which is a permit that's going to be issued by the village to Epsilon, and in that permit, it will spell out the terms and conditions of their effluent.
That's great.
Are they doing this anywhere else? I mean, is this their first plant?
No, I think they're coming up from New Jersey.
So they've done this before, but they're trying to get this process as far as, because this is a startup process, right?
Well, they have new equipment in the building now, but I think that they're not familiar with running a pre-treatment plant. I think wherever they are now, they just discharge into a sewage treatment facility, a municipal facility. So I don't think that the problem is their cheese making. I think it's the effluent that's coming out and running that pre-treatment plant before it gets to our sewers.
All right, thank you very much. Any further comments on that? All right, have a good
Okay,
night.
thanks, everybody.
All right, trustee comments, we'll begin with trustee Matthews.
Okay, first of all, I live on Lincoln Avenue, and NICEAG has been coming through and putting in their new line. And though I must admit that I was pretty forward in letting them know that I didn't want my stone wall that my husband built me hurt, they have been an exceedingly cooperative group of workmen, and it has not been an easy task. It's been a pain in the neck to live with, and right now my neighbors across the street have their entire front yard zoned up, because it's not just laying the lines, it's connecting with each house. They have been attentive and cooperative and respectful, and I just want to give them, because I know they're still working today, that they're working very hard, and to say, though I pull out of the driveway and call them murderers every day because they're killing the trees, which brings me to the reason for my raising this issue. Originally, they stated that they would, and they put that in writing, that they would have to correct anything that happened to anyone's sidewalks, front lawns, that they would have to bring it back. If we lose these trees, because they have whole specimen trees that they have dug around on 4 sides, I would like to have your permission to raise the issue with them about replacement trees.
Absolutely.
Okay? And I think that we're going to run into the same problem. They have said that they're going to put down sidewalks for people where they've had to tear them up, but they don't qualify what kind of sidewalks.
Is this project going to go out throughout the whole building?
Oh, it is, yeah.
What are they doing?
It's on 6 of the streets. They're putting in their antiquated lines. They're replacing the lines. In order to do so, they try to just go underground and snake it through, put in new lines. But when they run into shale, which they're now on Hilltop, and it's all shale. I mean,
My question, are they coming to plant people's grass back again and all that?
that's what they stated originally when I got a letter stating that they were, which of course I received after they started the project, which is why I called the head of the project immediately. Communication 101, get the letter to me before you start the project. That's what it states. Now, it's a very general letter. It's written by a lawyer someplace who works for them somewhere. Sorry, David.
Well,
But-
hey, listen, I have personal experience with that, which is not positive.
Well, that's why I'm raising this, because they just came up Wisner, and now they're going to go up. They're really street by street. They're going to hit you next, I'm sure. It depends on when yours were put in, though. Because
They've
yours were
already
put
been
in
down
later.
my street, our
Yeah.
street, but they haven't planted any grass or reseeded.
No,
anybody's
and that's
yard
the
or
other
anything
thing.
like
And
that.
I had to
Well,
call
they certainly, they were in front of my house about 3 years ago, and they started out in the street, so they were digging between this has nothing to do with my job here, but it really still sticks in the front.
Yeah.
In between the sidewalk and the street, they were
Right.
digging there, and then they never sent me a letter or anything. So I came home for lunch and said, what are you guys doing? Oh, we're putting the meter outside. I said, well, make sure you put it on that side, not
Oh,
this
they were
side.
right in front when I know.
Because I have
So
deer
they-
fence here in the wintertime. I said, oh, not a problem.
Um,
So I came back after lunch, but at the end of the day, of course, for whatever reason, the hole they dug between the sidewalk and the street was no good. They dug another hole in between the sidewalk and the house, put the meter where I told them not to put the meter,
Right.
threw some grass down and flew away. I called and they said, we'll be right over to fix it, and never heard from me.
Well, that's the reason that I'm
And then they
raising
complained that they can't read my meter during the winter because it's behind the deer.
The reason I'm raising this is because it's like, I appreciate that they have to update. I appreciate they have to update. I appreciate the men who they've subcontracted to have been very courteous and hardworking. However, it's NICEAG that I have the issue with. And I want to make sure that this is made whole. We had terrible rain, and down, my friends Joe and Mary live on the corner, and they've made this pipe structure in front of their house that they say, we'll be there until the work is done, whatever that means. But, I thought Joe and Mary should have won for
Very
4th
nice
of July
decorated.
because they dressed it up so beautifully.
They were the ones that put the flag all
Yes,
over.
they did, all over, it was really cute. But the bottom line is, it's a big dig out in the street. The gravel that they threw in there has washed away twice. I had to call the cops because it's after hours, the police, and they've been very cooperative and come and put up the warning. But somebody hits that with their wheel, we have serious problems. So there are a couple of issues I think that we have with NICEAG, however you want to divvy it up. And I want to go for reclamation of the sidewalks, the lawns, the street trees. And anything else you want to throw in there, I'll be happy to include.
Seems like you have a good plan of attack
Well,
right now,
that's because
so
I'm living with it night and day.
I would say that,
Yeah.
proceed,
Okay.
whatever you're doing.
I'll show it to you before I do
Yeah,
it.
touch base with us,
Okay.
let us know what support we can be.
Okay.
But I think, at least for my purposes, and the city disagrees, I've been supportive of what you're doing.
And based on his 3-year-old experience, it seems like it's a smart thing for us to do.
Okay.
Aside from that, the reservoir looks great. And it's full. Mike's on vacation.
Thank you. Trustee Stewart?
Just following right up on that, Mike is on a well-deserved vacation. I have no report. Things are,
Very good,
things
very
are
good.
going fine.
A couple things, I want to thank the Chamber for another successful Great American Weekend, albeit Sunday, not so great weather-wise, but you can't always control that with an outdoor event, but I understand that Saturday things were very successful, the vendors were very, very happy. Also want to thank, congratulate, not sure what the right word is, maybe both, Kent Shannon and his cast and crew for Shakespeare in the Park on Saturday. I went at 3 o'clock, fabulous version of Bounty Bearers. Someone in this room's girlfriend was in it, and she was phenomenal. So I just want to thank Ken and his casting crew for a great, great free show. That's it.
Trustee Smith?
Big on that recycling, and I would notice now, and I think that maybe we need, as a board, we need to send out a notice to all the village residents, similar to what we did when we did the notifying folks about a village board meeting. Because the 5th Friday, or 5th Wednesdays rather, where normally they weren't picking up, now they're picking up. And nobody in the village hardly at all put out any recycling on that 5th Wednesday. So I don't think people got the message crystal clear. And if Jerry was here, maybe she would have put a little something in the Chronicle again. But, you figure for the cost of what it would cost us to send out the cards, if people just put their recyclables out on that one extra Wednesday, it would probably more than compensate for what we have to pay to send out, a little card, blue card or something like that.
I think that's a good idea.
Because I noticed that there was absolutely nobody.
Yeah,
hardly
well,
that
they were
put-
trained.
And I realized too, it was just before the 4th of July weekend, but normally all my neighbors who put out recycling, they put them out. Some of them, like, they live right close to the. So,
Joel?
I always put it out when I have it.
huh?
I save it up and put it out when I have it.
If we're going to send some sort of mailing, I know everyone feels, but we may want to remind people it's mailing, and it's not exactly, it's kind of mandatory too. And that, you could be subject to fines if you're just dumping all your recyclables in regular garbage too.
Only if we plan on enforcing.
But remind people that it is a possibility.
When I did ride with Mike one day, he did say that since the mainstream recycling, where you can put everything together, which a lot of people still are not aware of, he said that it has, the amount of recycling has increased quite a bit.
Yeah.
So that's a reduction in what we're sending out and we're
Right.
paying for.
I think it's
And
an excellent idea.
I think if it's pushed a little bit more, and then we're just let the people know the mainstream recycling, plus the fact that they can, that it's every Wednesday, it's not every, if there's 5 Wednesdays in the month, it's every Wednesday, all year long.
And then it
Period.
means paper as well.
And
Because
paper,
that's what people
bottles,
ask for
cans,
most often.
everything
Yeah.
can be combined into one, boom. And, a lot of people take advantage of it and use it more, put more to it.
Sounds like a good idea.
I mean, anybody that doesn't has got to have a guilty conscience when they throw a bunch of bottles and cans in their garbage.
Sure.
You got to.
Thanks.
Just can't.
Hey, let's talk about that tomorrow. Find out the cost of the postcards and all that, and how much information we can put on there because maybe there's other things the board members might have that we could include
We're gonna send.
without.
I mean, we don't send it out today or next week.
Yeah, but I think it's a good idea, but if we're gonna send it out, maybe there's more stuff we
But
can.
exactly, you know, like a little flyer thing, I mean, you know, reminder.
Okay. I think it's a good idea. Anything else from your part?
That's it.
Okay. Me, just, I want to say it was an excellent Great American Weekend this year, just echoing what I said, weather aside, great turnout on Saturday, the vendors were excellent, all of the nonprofits that were doing the food and stuff under the tent did a great job, and it really is a great thing for our community. Outside of that, I'm meeting with the Mid-Hudson Parade Committee, hopefully by the end of this week. We're going to meet tomorrow, if a few of their members could make it. I sent a letter out to them, basically explaining what we had talked about overtime, that we still want to have the parade here very much, but we wouldn't be able to have the taxpayers go for the overtime. And I said that as an individual, I would serve on a fundraising committee or anything to keep it here. So the letter went out, I'll be meeting with them this week, and I'll report back to the board.
A fundraising committee to keep the parade here.
Well, if they were going to do a fundraiser to, pay those costs that we would have for overtime, I'd be willing to help them out.
I'm interested you bring that up because the race director, I spent 4 hours directing traffic for the 10K race, which I do every year. And the race director stopped to speak to me and told me that this will be the last race they ever have because now that they're going to have to take the overtime, they're not going to do it anymore. And I'm fully behind the board in this concept, but I think that both ourselves and the chamber should go to these people and indicate, not us necessarily, but I think the chamber and the community ought to try to help these organizations because we don't want the taxpayers paying for this. That's the whole point of it. But I don't want to drive these people out of town, and I feel the same way about that or the other 10K races, the Frank Romano one or any of these other ones. I think as private citizens, we have an obligation to try to get behind these events and try to help them. But as village trustees and the mayor, we have an obligation to the taxpayers to make sure that the taxpayers aren't paying for it. Now, I don't know, there's a certain amount of, what's the best word I want to use? Anger, I guess, would be the mildest word to use. There's a certain amount of frustration, there's a good word, thank you, about this. That being said, I think this is the right thing to do. I think it's what's happening. The town was doing it before we were doing it. And this idea in these economic times that the village and the village taxpayers can fund all of this overtime, and it's not just the police, it's the DPW as well. We just can't afford to do this. So the civic groups, if they want to continue to have these, I'll be 100% out there to try to help them raise the money. I just don't want the village taxpayers having to do it.
And I think a lot of it is just giving I'm sorry.
No, all I wanted to back up on what he was saying is I agree with you absolutely. But maybe it would be productive to have a representative from each one of them. We pretty much know which races and things are going on. Have them come in. And remember when the chief said there are many ways that it isn't going to cost them additional overtime if they run it here, here, or here. And maybe we try to work out with them where we have the least impact on overtime. Because you know what happens once the issue gets out into the field, it becomes an animal with a life of its own. And if we invite everyone in and say, okay, here are ways that we can try to help you so it doesn't occur.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's very beneficial is the mayor reaches out to the parade committee now far in advance of their event. What happened with regard to the 10K race, is Val and I well know the race director for 25 years, Mal's former partner, one of my current partners. What happened was when he was informed by the town, because the village, because we're considering this policy, we haven't adopted it yet, the village paid police overtime. The town advised my partner Rob that they wouldn't about a week, 10 days before the event.
Oh, that's terrible.
So what happened was it was going to cost them in the neighborhood of $1,500, which is about the profit that the race
Yeah,
makes.
they can afford to do that.
So, I mean, his point was, I wish I had known earlier, because I'm not in a position at this late date to make up this money anywhere else, or tell everyone now I'm going to cancel the race a week or 10 days before it's scheduled.
But we have not implemented it. That's why he's reaching out and working with them now.
And the chief made the point, because obviously I spent a lot of time with him, because, you know, we spent 4 hours down there, and I usually end up blocking off the area by the Civil War Monument by St. James, and the chief is usually there and converse about this. And there are obviously a lot of ways, as Ed well knows as the police commissioner, I've talked to the chief about it, and having run a lot of races in my life, there are ways in this village that make it very easy,
Correct.
which wouldn't happen in other places, because we have the trail on both ends of the village, and there are ways that we could cut it down. The fire police don't charge anybody any money for doing this, so you have 7 or 8 guys that go out there and just do that as part of their community civic duty. And then if you use the trail primarily for these road races, you don't need extra cops. He said he could do it without extra police officers
the
if they
point.
would just change the race course.
That's.
And then we could eliminate the town, because that was for 2 guys.
The 1,500?
Yeah.
1,500 was for 2 officers.
Wow.
For 3 hours. For one day, 2 officers.
For 3 hours.
For 3 hours?
6 man-hours.
That's terrible.
How does that come out to $1,500? I mean,
Good question.
That's the town's
Another
prerogative.
question.
But
well, I mean,
All right. This is the end of my report. Before citizen comments, I know that Joel's been asking about our current litigation. So maybe, David, if you could just run through the cases that we're involved in right now.
I'll try to do this from memory. Meg, help me out if I missed any, but the ones I'm involved in, I think there are only 2. There's the Epsilon. Epsilon actually sued us over our bills. We've answered. That matter is fully submitted to Article 78 proceedings, so unless the judge wants to hold a hearing, it's decided on papers only. Fully submitted on the order of a month ago. So whenever Judge McKirk issues his decision, we'll have a decision on that, so that's fully submitted. The other matter is the arbitration with the town. We're scheduled to cross-examine the town's accountant, their witness, Mr. Brown, a week from Wednesday when we reconvene after my vacation, Dennis's vacation, and my family's vacation. And then after that, we start our case at the end of the week.
Thank you very much.
There are some cases I know that our insurance company is handling, but I'm not up to speed on those.
All right.
Did I miss anything? Those are the...
All right. Thank you, David. Citizen comments.
Just to follow quickly on that, the Star case, did you say? At the end of the week?
No, start our case.
Oh,
So in other words,
start-
the town is just about to finish their case, I'm sorry.
The hair's
Start
gone gray in the ears
start
ago.
our case.
Right, okay. First of all, just give me a second here to do a stop. I want to commend the board for going down the road of applying costs to event organizations. It's absolutely the right thing to do in this time, and I think you're on the right track with that. And very, very good to hear. I hope that you'll continue discussions with the county over the St. Patrick's Day Parade, and anything we can do to have the county participate in costs in lieu of taxes should be added along those lines. With regard to the NICEAG thing, also again, very much right on the right line with that. Just a question, I'm wondering if perhaps it wouldn't be safer, question, to use the word, perhaps a better idea, to have any communication coming from council instead of from a member of the board, since
Well, I always like to try to be,
I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
Sure, do it unofficially, do
I
it
hear what you're
informally.
saying.
But if you're going to be holding them to a mark, perhaps it should come from council eventually.
eventually.
Question about the landfill, where do we stand with that situation?
Do you want to speak to that?
In terms of the disposition of the stockpile?
Yeah.
Yeah. All I can say at this time is we continue to be in negotiation to attempt to shrink the cost. I expect we have a resolution in 2 weeks.
Is it still fair to say that Nestle has been reaching out, trying to find
Yes.
a disposition for that, or are we looking at other channels?
It's a little
Other
sensitive. So let me
agents.
say this, we're trying to be sensitive to the taxpayers, to the bottom line. At the same point in time, recognizing that we need to dispose of that material as quickly as possible.
I had raised a question about the posting of the 52 acres at the last meeting. Did you make any inquiry with regard to that?
Oh, off the trail. Yes, I haven't got any more information on that. It got away from me, to be honest. Let me find out. David, just to fill you in, I guess there's postings by the trail, and you said village postings?
Apparently. Now, this goes back a couple of months that I was out there, but there were
Portion of
yellow...
the trail by the plant? or-
Right, the village land was posted by the Village of Goshen, yellow posted signs on trees. And I raised the question because at a previous meeting, you had opined that sometimes actually posting something raises your surface of liability rather than reducing it. This is always an education coming to these meetings, so I was curious about that as to how and why it got posted, on whose direction and for what reason.
Okay, I'll look into that.
That's
Let me look into that. I think I have a recollection of why it started, but I'll look into it.
All right, we'll talk about it tomorrow.
Mr. Hickok asked me if I would inquire again about the TAM bill.
As I've said previously, I'm not sure what happened. I think it was included in other receipts from the contractor, but we haven't been able to locate it.
So essentially, the village at this point can't demonstrate that TAM was paid for the work done there?
I don't want to say that. I didn't say that. The specific bill for that specific project, I'm not sure where that is at the moment. My guess, as I said, is that it was included with other costs, the things that they've done, because we contracted them occasionally for
I
work.
don't want to act representing Mr. Hickok or his mother, but the concern there is that it seems to be that, or there seems to be a possibility that it was actually on their bill that it got picked up, rather than on the village's tab. So that's why he's been insistent about.
Yeah, that's the first time I've heard that concern.
Yeah, really.
That I'd be shocked if that's the case. That's not the case from my understanding. But I can do more further investigations now I know.
Certainly, if they submitted a bill, it should be not a problem if there were an invoice to come up with some accounting for it.
Like I said,
Has he asked Tam?
He would typically go through us because if Tam didn't work
Right.
at our
You're saying
behest.
he got an invoice.
Well, sorry?
You're saying he got an
No,
invoice.
the deal, as I'm sure Mr. Donovan remembers, is that Margot George would pay for the work from the property line in, and the village would be responsible for any work from the property line out to the main.
That was
The deal. It was spelled
I'm
out.
saying, did she get a bill from Tam?
Yes, she has a bill for work that was done on her property. The question is, where is the bill to the village for the work that was done for the village?
But you just said she thinks it's possible on her bill, she's paying for the village portion. Why doesn't she pick up the phone and call Tam and find out?
Because it's,
Well, because Tam,
Didn't you just say she got a bill from Tam? Am I hearing this wrong?
Right, and that bill is itemized as, from my understanding, I have not seen it, as the work that was done for her property. Again, I shouldn't speak about what I haven't seen.
what I can say
But that
is,
is the concern.
we'll do further investigation, but I
I'm
can
glad
tell
we
you.
finally know what the basis of the
I mean,
concern is.
it's a question that's been raised now for about 6 months. Where's the bill?
Right. But I can say unequivocally that the village upheld and will continue to upheld all sides of the bargains that we agreed to. So that's what agreed to, that's what happened.
However, if you haven't been billed for the work, then you can't have paid
Well,
for it.
as I said, I think it's probably just a line item in another bill that we got from them, and that's the issue. But I can
Well,
tell you there's.
that's what it has been requested that the village demonstrate, that in fact they did pay for it, and that's all that's been requested along the line. I had a question about Trustee Matthews' comment, which you make each time about the paying of the bills, that they've all been approved. And at each meeting, you're sitting here signing the vouchers. What is the process, aside from looking at the vouchers and signing, what is the oversight process in the approval of the bills? Is there a procedure for
The bills
oversight?
The bills are directed first to the department head from that department. That department head looks through the bills, ensures by looking at them and speaking to the head of that department, the commissioner or liaison to that department. They get the bills, they look through. All the commissioners are in active communication with the department heads, whether it's Superintendent Husley's or Chief Watt. They make sure that all the bills that are in there are for things that have been done, been approved. If there is a question, they go to that department head. And if there is, then that's dealt with. If that hasn't been the case recently, as far as I'm aware. And after it's ensured that all the bills are accurate and for work that was done, work that was approved or previously in the budget, they sign off on it. Then two other the trustees are given the bills. They look through. If they have a question, they'll go to that department liaison and ask if there's questions about that. And then if those two other trustees are satisfied with their answers, then they sign off as well.
So prior to the bills coming to the table during meetings and being signed, do the trustees have an opportunity to go over them?
Yes, I mean,
Of course.
they go, at some point in time before this, they make their way to the treasurer, because I know I've been questioned by past treasurers over an invoice here, an invoice there. That's generally the first level. Then it comes to well, actually it's the second level. First level is the department head, treasurer, second level. Then it comes to trustees, review the bills, sign off the bills, they go back to the treasurer for the checks to be cut. That is a formal resolution adopted by the board.
The question wasn't adversarial, but simply informational. These are tough times, and people are concerned about where their money is going. So,
Yeah, there's several levels of review, and in fact, I forget the exact statutory reference, but it's laid out in the village law. It actually, under prior Mayor Weinberger's administration, I think we actually adopted a resolution formalizing this process.
And it should come as no surprise. I mean, a large majority of these bills, I can speak as an EPW commissioner, they're all signed for the most part. Any bill that I see is signed by Superintendent Nusley's, and it should come as no surprise that bills are from places like Goshen Hardware, A&F Tire, G&T Auto Parts for auto parts, and then of course there's numerous bills from, for landfill costs for dumping of the garbage and stuff like that, but they're all generally local businesses, Rowe Brothers Lumberyard and places.
The other
like that.
example I can give is actually on one of the change orders for the landfill, because for the sewage treatment plant, for the clean out of the digesters. That was a change order, where actually the extended general conditions, that was not approved by the engineer, not signed off by the board. That ended up in litigation. So an example of a voucher, because all vouchers need to be submitted, not being approved. So it does happen from time to time.
That being said, as much as we are human, we have been vigilant, and we will continue to be vigilant with the taxpayers' money.
And, there are times when you have a question, and you don't sign it, you give it to Megan and say, could you find out the answer to this for me? And then it's up the next week for signature. It's straightened out.
Now, I will tell you, my observation is the bills are, I feel, on the conservative side, that, I don't see anything that's frivolous or anything like that that's in any way exorbitant or outlandish or anything else like that. As a matter of fact, I get the feeling when I'm signing a lot of vouchers that they are done with best interest in mind.
And you better make have your vouchers in order, because I know that my partner Mike, who represents the planning board, if the voucher's not properly filled out, first level of the department head is Ruth Ann, and it's a fax back saying your voucher's rejected. Please.
And you will not get it.
Please correct it.
well, the question was really about process and structure.
Sure.
I think
That's a good question.
people don't understand it, and I think it's good information to get out there.
Sure, absolutely.
Any further questions? All right. Well, I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss arbitration with the town of Goshen with no business to be done after we return.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.